Okay. Good evening.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. See, two concepts which students had doubt was one was real exchange rate, and I'll explain it after 1.5 hour. Okay. So once we do this, anyhow, these are all factual, but there will be few important areas as well. Okay. So and tax buoyancy was another area. So these two I will explain after 1 hour. In between, whenever we get bored, I'll explain. Okay. So here, I think we have seen this graph. This was the last thing we have done yesterday. So, but one chart here you can see livestock population. Okay, so there is some order that is given. You can just observe. Okay, so is that okay? It's a factual thing. You should observe UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal. Okay, so that is one observation there. Okay, so it's factual. Just remember. So the next area is food processing and public distribution system. And food processing is primarily for mains, but for prelims, you will focus on schemes. Okay, so one is schemes, and there was one question earlier that was asked. Okay, so we'll start straight. So one is backward and forward integration. I think these words are clear. Backward integration is you're connecting with the suppliers, and forward integration you're connecting with the consumers. Okay. Vertical integration means both backward and forward integration have been done by the same entity. Suppose if Ratan Tata is doing both backward and forward. Okay, so the raw materials of Ratan Tata is coming from Tata company only, and he also has his own Tata showrooms. So that is called as vertical integration. Vertical integration, companies with deep pockets can do vertical integration. Okay, so that is basically to save on the lead times, etc. Okay, and another important observation here. So what are the benefits of supply chain? So you should know what is supply chain for prelims. Benefits of supply chain in mains. Okay, so what are the benefits of backward and forward integration? Okay, timely delivery, appropriate quality, post-harvest losses for the farmer will be less. Okay, so and these are the benefits basically, right? Now, when we talk about processing, so this is the supply chain: inputs, production, procurement, primary, secondary, and tertiary. India is good with respect to primary processing. Most of our processing industries are here. Okay, and we are most of the small scale food processing industries are not doing well with respect to their tertiary processing. So here, if we make an observation, upstream requirements, downstream requirements. So upstream requirements is something like will help us with appropriate backward integration. Your raw materials, okay, good linkages with farmers, okay, and the storage facilities for raw materials, quality testing, transport facilities, etc. So if you have seen that mega food park, so where the central processing CPC would be integrated with the farmers, isn't it? So that is how a mega food park runs. That is nothing but what? Backward integration. This is called as hub and spoke model. That is also given in the material as well. I think the chart is given. Okay. And then this is downstream. Downstream is processing techniques, quality testing facilities, organized retail stores for faster distribution. Okay, so this is, and I don't think they will ask. If at all they ask also the word, it is very easy. You can mark the answer. Okay, I will talk about logistics later. Okay, so logistics anyhow separately I'll show you. So there is some index called as leads. Leads is an index related to logistics. I'll come to that. See here, outbound, inbound, outbound, they're related to downstream. It involves all the movement of products once it is finished good is once it is a finished good to the various markets. This is what is downstream, upstream, same thing. Okay, so backward linkage, forward linkage. You all know anyhow. So here there's one word here called sideways linkage. Sideways linkage, it is linked with the use of byproducts and waste products of the main base industrial activity. At the same level, it is getting integrated. For example, the byproducts and waste can be used further in the production of fuel, biofuel, etc. Okay, so the way, is that okay? So this is something like the byproducts and waste can be used for further in production of fuel, biofuels, paper, etc. That means it is something like a sideway integration. Okay, so if at all is going to confuse you, so therefore one backward, then forward and sideway. Yeah. See, food processing industry, what are the benefits? So why is food processing so important for us? Basically, it is an intermediary between agriculture and core manufacturing. And food processing industries will help us increase our agri exports. Help us increase our agri exports. Okay, so help us increase our agriculture exports. That is also there. What are the other benefits of food processing industry? Food processing industries create a lot of what? Employment opportunities. Employment opportunities. Then processed food. Fortification, that is again nutrition related aspects, yes. Okay, then shelf life exports. This is all shelf life exports and all that. Okay, so increase in shelf life, etc. Then, are there any other benefits? Manufacturing output. Most of them are part of MSME. Loans given to food processing industries, are they part of PSL target for the banks? Yes. Loans given to, see, there were questions like all loans given to MSMEs will be treated as priority sector loans. Earlier UPSC question. Wrong statement. I think you're getting my point. This was a statement. All loans given to MSMEs is going to be treated as priority. It's not like all loans given to MSME, but MSME is also a category under PSL targets. Renewable energy is a category under PSL targets. Education is also a category under PSL targets. Okay, so there was one statement saying that all loans given to MSME will be treated as part of PSL targets. Okay, and that is with respect to MSME question. Okay, and that's a wrong statement. Okay, yes, previous UPSC. And food processing industry related loans which the bank is giving will be treated as part of PSL. They have taken this decision after 1995. Okay, so, and it increases the income of the farmers and all that. Income of farmers, all that. But in spite of all this, in India, food processing has a lot of challenges because most of them are small scale. So there are problems of economies of scale, branding and advertisement related issues. Branding, advertisement, okay, so that is also there. And then issues related to infrastructure, etc. Lack of appropriate backward and forward integration. Okay, appropriate backward and forward integration. So backward and forward integration, then you should know what is the difference between primary processing, secondary processing, and tertiary processing. So when we talk about ketchups, chips, okay, so where more of technology is involved, infrastructure is involved, all this is, what processing is that? It is tertiary processing, tertiary processing. So when we talk about basic activities like grading, salting, so this is primary. Basic value addition would be part of the secondary processing. Okay, so primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay, so these are the three different types of processing, etc. Okay, then backward and forward integration, there are issues related to credit. Most of the MSMEs are in the informal sector. That is the reason you have PM formalization scheme. Okay, so most of the MSMEs are in the informal sector. Informal sector means they cannot compete with respect to prices, they cannot do branding, etc. So advertisement related issues, all these problems will be there. Availability of skilled labor is also a challenge. Availability of skilled manpower. So like this, there are problems with respect to MSME. So that is the reason to handle all these problems. The government has come up with certain mechanisms, and there comes the schemes. And why is it important? So now observe few things here. 100% FDI is allowed in this sector. So one current affairs is FDI in space. I put that already in the important area. FDI in space, 100% FDI in space, but there are 3 areas in that space. Okay, so again you should check automatic, non-automatic route of FDI, where how much is coming. I think that is there in your magazines also, and that is important. Okay, so attracted FDI worth 500 billion rupees in the last 9 years, 15 times expansion in the domestic processing capacity, 7th largest exporter of agriculture, and contribution to GVA stands at 1.8%. Okay, and contribution to agricultural exports is 23%, up from 13%. Okay, so is that okay? So doubling farmers' income, increasing agro exports, food processing industry has an important role to play. So it is observation of numbers only. You need not remember anything, but observation of numbers. Okay, so government schemes related to food processing. Of course, for mains we have written a lot of schemes, but here at least few things which you have to do. One is you have PMKSY. Okay, so PMKSY is one important scheme. So this is basically, it integrates all other schemes under, so all these sub-schemes, including Mega Food Park scheme, is included in the PMKSY. I think that you should be knowing this. So it provides financial, technical and business support for setting up upgradation of micro food processing enterprises. Okay, so here if you see, it aims to create modern infrastructure for an efficient supply chain management from the farms to the retail outlet, right? And it reduces the time taken for the produce to reach final consumers, provides better prices to farmers for their produce, employment, processing level, exports. Now, it is basically a central sector scheme, and Ministry of Food Processing, okay, that is something which you should know. And initially when they have come up with the target 2016 to 20, they said how many crores? 6,000 crores. Of course, they have upgraded it, 6,000 crore. And it primarily focuses on agro-marine processing and development of agro-processing clusters. This is the primary aspect. Okay, so here if you see, the benefit is PMKSY has promoted or increased exports by almost like 15%. That is, export earnings have increased by almost 15%. Reduced post-harvest losses, improved quality and safety of processed food, okay, and create employment opportunity, helped in creating employment opportunity in the rural areas, and it increased processing of agricultural produce. Okay, so these things I think you can identify. Agro-processing cluster, 6,000 crore initially, 2016 to 20. Then comes which ministry? Is that okay? And then central sector scheme. Centrally sponsored, central sector, right? So it is a central sector scheme. Okay, and it has integrated most of the other schemes here. You can see Mega Food Park scheme was there earlier. So that is also part. Infrastructure for agro processing, human resource, food safety and quality assurance infrastructure, okay, and operation, heard of Operation Greens? Okay, so here if we see, okay, this is part of the Mega Food Park scheme. I think this is what we discussed earlier in the classes, Mega Food Park scheme. I don't think there will be a specific question. If at all there's a specific question on Mega Food Park, because Mega Food Park is also included in PMKSY now. Okay, so Mega Food Park, if you see here, this is the Mega Food Park. It is connected with the PPCs. Okay, this is Central Processing Center, which is generally located in an area of 50 acres. And government generally comes up with a funding of up to 50 crore. 50 crore. Okay, so, and you have PPCs here, primary processing centers. These are connected to the collection center. CCs are collection centers, and collection centers will be connected to farmer group organization, farmers or even SHGs. Okay, so is that clear? The same thing we have drawn in a reverse way earlier. So here the chart is a little different, that's it. And from here, then this Mega Food Park, now is there a contribution from the center? Yes, up to 50 crore. Okay, so there is contribution from the center side. Yes, it is there. And does state have any function to perform? States also identification of basically land, etc., taxes related aspect, state does it. Collection centers are basically handled by the local entrepreneurs. Okay, so every area around 10 kilometers radius, collection centers are set up, and these local entrepreneurs are going to collect raw materials from the farmer groups, and then it comes to the PPC. Here, some primary processing can be done to some extent, and then it goes to the mega food park, right? Here you have all the infrastructure that is required for high-level processing. Okay, so core business enabling, non-core infrastructure, processing units, etc. So then from there you can export it or sell it in the domestic market. That is the mega food park. That is called as the hub and spoke model. Is that okay? Yes. One district, one product. Heard of it? Okay, fine. So here you can see PM formalization of micro food processing enterprises scheme. So all this you will write as what has to be done, how efficiently processing should be done. Basically in the mains area, you can focus here. But for prelims, probably you should remember to be implemented over 5-year period, 2020-21 to 2024-25. Okay. So here it is under what? Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. This program is part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So what is the primary aim here? Competitiveness of micro industries. So smaller entities plus formalization. So most of the processing units are in informal sectors. And one more thing is, there was a previous mains question earlier that was asked, what are the challenges of small scale processing units? This was a previous mains question. So small scale processing units, one of the problem of a small scale processing unit is informal. Okay, and they cannot compete with MNCs, obviously. Okay, so because they do not have economies of scale and these kind of problems, they cannot be in line with the international food safety standards. Okay, so now all that training also will be provided along with formalization. Okay, so here this is expected to generate skilled and semi-skilled jobs, cluster approach focused on perishables, etc. Is that okay? Yes. Then this is Operation Greens. I think you should have heard of this. Okay, so the nodal agency which is going to handle this would be NAFED. Okay. National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India. Okay, so NAFED will be the nodal agency, and Ministry of Food Processing will provide 50% of the subsidy on the transportation and storage facilities of top crops. You know about tops, right? Okay. So it was announced in the budget speech 2018-19 on the line of Operation Flood. Initially it was only limited to top, and later, but now it has been transformed from top to total to cover other fruits and vegetables. So other fruits and vegetables also it is covered. The scheme has two-pronged strategy. So two-pronged strategy here is basically, one is for short term, what are you going to do? Another would be long term, what is your approach? Okay, so short term and long term. This is something which you will remember. So in the short term, here you can see price stabilization measures. In the short term, it is price stabilization measures, and NAFED will be the nodal agency, and subsidy is provided by the Ministry of Food Processing for transportation and storage facilities. Okay, so that is one observation there. And then long-term strategy would be obviously building the supply chain. Building the supply chain. So formation and capacity building of FPOs, quality production, post-harvest processing facilities, agro-logistics, etc. So it is all about working on the supply chain. Is that okay till there? Okay, so then Nivesh Bandhu, Ministry of Food Processing Industries. The portal is one-stop solution to all the investors who are looking to invest in India in the food processing sector. Okay, so at least you'll remember the word and what it is. Next is Tri-Food project. Of course, this is about the slaughterhouses, modernization. Okay, so here then you have Tri-Food project. Tri-Food project is basically under Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Okay, so you have, along with TriFed, have initiated this project. So primarily its focus is to increase the incomes of tribals through better utilization and value addition of minor forest produce. Yesterday we talked about this minor forest produce MSP. Okay, so this is a tri-food project, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and along with TriFed, increasing the income of tribals through better utilization and value addition for minor forest produce. So that is the objective basically. Okay, so this is an initiative, Ministry of Food Processing Industries. Okay, and the implementing agency for tri-food scheme would be TriFed, right? Okay, and the scheme promotes entrepreneurship among tribals by providing them with a comprehensive development package. Okay, and the ministry will ensure that the sales proceeds of the value-added products directly go to the tribals without any intermediary. So automatically incomes of the tribals will increase. So whatever sales happen, the revenues or the income is directly going to be given to the tribals straight. So implementation, what is that they are going to do? Just observe, like if at all they ask, the minor forest produce processing units will be set up under the scheme. Okay, and then the backward and forward linkages will be created under this scheme. And you can also observe here, processed products collected from the tribals will be sold through tribal outlets, franchises, stores across India. Along the process, intermediaries will be eliminated who were mainly responsible for the challenges for the tribals. That much I think, if you remember the ministry, remember the objective and the implementing agency. Okay. So here actually there were PDS, one simple question that was asked earlier was this one. Okay, so when we talk about the economic cost of food grains, okay, so here from the farmer, it is going to FCI. Food grains are going to FCI. From here to the state civil supplies department, and from here to fair price shops, and from fair price shops maybe separately for BPL. Generally at half the economic cost of FCI, it is supplied to BPL. Not constant, but generally it is that. At full economic cost, it would be supplied to APL families. Okay, so here earlier they used to talk about procurement costs. So when I say procurement cost will be a little higher, obviously, including the MSP. So the cost of procurement cost. Okay, so here, of course, put it this way. Procurement cost is involved. So procurement cost, this question is with respect to that. The economic cost of food grains to FCI is the minimum price, minimum support price and bonus, if any, paid to the farmers, plus what else? Okay, so on one side you are paying MSP to the farmer, okay, and what are the other costs involved? Okay, so it involves two things. FCI, it involves, one is the procurement costs and also the distribution, both distribution. Now, because these costs are increasing, cost for FCI has been increasing in the last few years. But along with that, the CIP was not increased by the government. CIP, central issue price, the price at which the central government is supplying grains to the ration shops or the state. Okay, so this is not getting increased. So on one side, the economic cost of FCI was increasing due to several factors, including the distribution aspects. But on the other side, even MSP increases, the cost for FCI is going to increase, isn't it? If MSP is increasing, if government is increasing MSP, okay, so that will also increase the cost. Okay, so along with storage, distribution, etc. So this is something which you should understand. So this gap which is there was widening, the gap between the central issue price and economic cost of FCI. This gap was widening. This was there in newspapers, and that is the reason this question was asked. Okay, so central issue price and economic cost of FCI, the gap started widening because this price was not increased in proportion to the economic cost of FCI. Okay, so there were discussions that food subsidy. So this gap again has to be subsidized by somebody. So the central government used to subsidize this. Okay, so it is central government is putting money from its pocket to subsidize it. Okay, so that is the subsidy, food subsidy part. Okay, is this clear? Okay, so when we talk about the main objectives, one, food security. FCI was set up with the intention of enhancing food security. Okay, and along with that, insulate consumers for impact of rising prices. Indirect check on open market prices provides essential consumer goods at cheap and subsidized. So here one observation. See, when we talk about the FCI system, so we know that FCI 1965, but the concept of public distribution system started off way in 1940. Okay, so from 1940 to let's say 1965, we can put it as one stage. Then 1965 to 75 as another stage, and then 1975 till present we can put it in the third stage. Okay, so here it is basically we were purely dependent on food imports for food security. Okay, so we were not indigenous in terms of food production during this period. Okay, so another problem here is this is something like when I say food security talks about several things. It would focus on one, affordability, then availability. Okay, availability. Affordability is one, then availability, then stability, and now you also have nutrition. So food security is not just about handling hunger today. Okay, so but when I say nutrition, that point of time you can't think of nutrition because survival itself was a challenge. Okay, so therefore food security has a wider perspective today. When we talk about affordability, availability, stability. Stability, how did we bring in stability? So stability was brought in through one, you have come up with FCI to bring in stability. Okay, and along with FCI programs related to MSP, etc. Okay, is that okay? Stability. Then when we talk about nutrition, you have programs like ICDS, okay, midday meal schemes. Even National Food Security Act has nutrition aspect under it. Okay, National Food Security, already asked previous UPSC question. Okay, so NFSA also talks about nutrition. NFSA also talks about nutrition. Okay, so here it is only making grains available. You're only talking about availability. So availability was the only logic. Affordability was not possible here because you did not have surplus stock. So here we did not talk about affordability. You can talk about affordability when you have enough buffer stock. Is that okay? Affordability discussion comes into picture when you have enough buffer stock. You did not have enough buffer stock. You were dependent on PL 480. And our PDS system was more irregular during this period. Irregular because it was dependent on PL 480. This is one observation. So today, what are the aspects that are part of food security means? You should talk about four things. Affordability, availability, stability, and we have schemes for everything. We are focusing on everything, right? So affordability, you're talking about pricing, TPDS mechanism and all. So in TPDS, you're coming up with giving grains at lesser prices. We have Antyodaya Anna Yojana program where you're identifying people who are poorer than BPL, etc. So we tried including disabled and all also into that AAY. Okay, so is that okay? Yes. So affordability, then here this is called as institutionalization of public distribution system. We have come up with, in this stage, we have come up with the main institution called FCI, institutionalization of PDS, okay, during this period. Along with that, Agriculture Prices Commission, so which used to recommend minimum support prices. You have checked CACP? I asked you all to check CACP whether it is statutory or not. I'm still not convinced. Is it a statutory body or non-statutory? Did you all check? It is? Or is it an attached office of Ministry of Agriculture? Okay, so you have to give me clarity. Is it an attached office of Ministry of Agriculture? Or is it a purely statutory body? For example, FCI. FCI was set up based on FCI Act 1964. FCI was set up in 1965 based on FCI Act 1964, isn't it? So can I say FCI is a statutory entity then? Yes. Okay. Got the point right. Similar, I see there was a conflicting question on that. That is the reason I've asked. You'll check and tell me. CACP, I should put it as statutory or I have to put it as something like only an attached office to Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so is that okay? Yes, fine. So here if you see, who recommends MSP for, who accepts MSP? The Department of Economic, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Okay, CCA. Okay, so who recommends FRP? CACP. Okay. Is that okay? Previous question was there, right? Okay, fine, fine. I think you've solved all the previous questions. Good, good. You should have solved by now. Okay. Otherwise, solve it as soon as possible. So, institutionalization of PDS, FCI is there, Agriculture Prices Commission. Both were set up in 1965. And here we can see first green revolution. And we were able to increase the buffer stock increased. And therefore, we could come up with, madam could come up with poverty elevation programs and all that. 5th 5-year plan, 6th 5-year plan, all that was possible because you have enough buffer stock. Otherwise, that is not possible. Okay, so during this period, 1975, India became a net exporter of food grains. India became a net exporter. That means India, which was completely dependent on food imports, became a net exporter by 1970. If there is a statement, India became a net exporter of food grains only in 1990s, means that statement is wrong. India has become a net exporter of food grains by 1975 itself. Okay, so though not in huge amounts, but maybe in minor quantities, but still we became. So a country which was dependent on PL 480 became a net exporter by 1975, and that can be because of the benefit of my first green revolution. So that credit can be given to MS Swaminathan. Okay, so 1975 to present. Now, even during this period, PDS was only for urban areas. So that means even till 1975, the concept of ration shops did not get extended to the rural areas. So rural areas extension has happened here. That means PDS got extended to rural areas only in 1980s, late 70s or early 80s. Okay, so that means even here the PDS or ration shop concept was for the urban areas only, not for the rural area. That should be clear. Okay, and here there was expansion, and we have come up with several other programs also. We have come up with ICDS programs, started focusing on nutrition as a primary aspect. Okay, so here and then we have talked about revamp public distribution system. This was in 1992. This is focusing not only on rural areas, but tribal or northeast areas. Northeast. That means rural on one side. 1992, we have extended it to northeastern areas as well. Then concept of targeting, TPDS has come up. TPDS 1997. Yesterday I mentioned it. 1997, where targeting of APL, BPL separately, that was through the TPS system. Then 2000s AAY program, Antyodaya, Anyojana, that was one program that they have come up with. Okay, so this is one observation. Is that okay? Yes. So what are the main problems in our public distribution system? So what are the main issues? One is leakages. So leakages and targeting issues. So targeting issue is something like, you can say exclusion and inclusion errors. Exclusion and inclusion error. Okay, so to handle this, Tamil Nadu has come up with universal PDS, if you know. Universal PDS system. That is, you don't have kind of a targeting system. Okay, so I've dictated earlier in the class. See, for every problem there should have been some solution. So they have come up with some solutions. Okay, so here leakages, targeting issues. Targeting issues means exclusion, inclusion. BPL have been included in APL, APL have been included in BPL. Okay, ghost beneficiaries, issues related to ghost beneficiaries. So they were talking about DBT. Now, one nation, one ration card concept. Heard of it? Okay, so one nation, one ration card concept, basically so that the migrant workers will be able to pick their ration from whichever place they want. So that is about one nation, one ration card. Okay, so that was also one of the measures taken by the government. Government also introduced food coupon concept earlier. Food coupons like the Sudaxo passes. Okay, so food coupon also was brought in. Okay, then using technology or coming up with smart cards like Haryana. Okay, so they have come up with smart cards. Okay, so directly once the sale happens, it will be updated in the MIS system straight. Okay, and the ration shop owners also, their stock limits, everything would be updated online so that you will easily get to know whether it is getting siphoned off in the open market or not. GPS for trucks, okay, so that you will be, because many times it moves from the go down, but where it goes, we don't know. Trucks go to the president's house, local president. Okay, so to avoid all that, GPS and also technology was a solution. Okay, so and there is a committee, Vadwa committee, mentioned in class, like Vadwa committee recommendations with respect to using technology, universal PDS, etc. Okay, and then you also have FCI reforms. FCI reforms, Shanta Kumar committee. FCI reforms, Shanta Kumar committee. Vadwa committee recommendations with respect to bringing in technology. Technology, see, without technology, corruption cannot be handled. Leakage, corruption, all this. Okay, so Vadwa committee recommendations. Okay, so here FCI reforms, Shanta Kumar committee. Shanta Kumar committee recommendations. Okay, so Shanta Kumar basically talks about different aspects. No, he talks about 4 different areas. He talks about procurement, he talks about storage. Okay, he also talks about distribution and transportation. FCI reforms. Okay, so he believes that there is open-ended procurement followed for I think there was a question, oil, rice, wheat. So that's a wrong statement. There is no open-ended procurement that is followed for all these. Open-ended procurement means you're not having any upper limit. Okay, as much as it is coming in, you are accepting it. Is that okay? So there was a previous question on that with respect to open-ended procurement followed. And they say open-ended procurement followed for rice, wheat, as well as oil. Okay, so procurement, storage. So here he talks about popularizing warehouse receipts. He also says no open-ended procurement. No open-ended procurement. Okay, so no open-ended procurement, popularizing and focus on quality, because there are problems of quality and scale, both. Quantity issues, quality also, because the vigilance departments don't work. Okay, they just come see, okay, it is okay, they'll say. So this is a quality related issue. So he suggests something with respect to quality. Storage, you do not, so he says better store in silos. Okay, these are structures rather than storing in gunny bags, etc. Okay, and then you just have something like rat protection. They do only put rat protection and they leave it in the open. And most of the grains will be rotting in the open, and therefore he suggests that's a very bad method. Okay, so, and he says, why can't you think of keeping forex with you? Forex. Okay, so whenever required, use this forex and buy rice or wheat, whichever thing you want, rather than stocking grains, because you do not have any storage capacity. Since you don't have storage capacity, so better you maintain forex. That is what he suggests. Is that okay? So, yes. Then distribution, he says, National Food Security Act should basically cover only 40% of the population. So NFSA was trying to cover 60% of the population, National Food Security Act. So he is very clear on that. So 60% anyhow you will not cover. Though you cover also, everything would be leakage only. So better cover 40% was his suggestion and do it well. And he also suggests direct cash transfer to the lady of the house. DCT to lady of the house, husband. That is why. 6 months ration at once. 6 months ration at once. Okay, so he says remove workers and give more importance to forklifts and machines. Machine. He says machine is better than human because salaries need not be paid. Okay, so this was not liked by many, but that is how he talks about using. So use containers while traveling and all that, no gunny bags, etc. So, and he says out and out computerization, out and out computerization from all the phases should be computerized, nothing should be manual. So this is what Shanta Kumar suggests. Is that okay? Vadwa, Shanta Kumar, you remember, if at all some statement comes up, you can mark. See here, on behalf of central government, it is there in our material. FCI undertakes procurement, storage, transportation, bulk allocation of food grains to the state. They undertake operational responsibilities like allocations within the state, identification of that means identification aspect is done by the state. Issuance of ration cards and supervision of the functioning of the fair price shops. These are the responsibilities of state government. So both center and state have responsibilities with respect to PDS. Is the statement okay? Yes. Okay. So here you can see FCI allocation to state governments at CIP sells the procurement. We have done this. FCI is a statutory organization set up in 1965 under Food Corporation Act 1964. So it comes in the third 5-year plan, right? So it is mandated with 3 basic objectives. Provide effective price support to the farmers, okay? Procure and supply grains to PDS for distributing to economically vulnerable sections of the society and maintain a strategic reserve to stabilize market for basic food grains. Okay, so NFSA, National Food Security Act. Already 2 times the question was asked. Okay, so is nutrition part of NFSA? Special focus on nutritional support to pregnant women, lactating mothers, etc. Okay, so ration cards are issued in the name of eldest women. State governments have the responsibility to identify households within 365 days of the passage of the act. Food security allowance, if concerned, state government is not able to provide the. Okay. Is Aadhaar compulsory? Not compulsory. Okay. Yeah, attached office. No. That's what I feel. Previous year question content it was there or in the question it was there? Okay, that's what I believe it's a kind of an attached office, but still let's check. So I am not the authority. UPSC, whatever UPSC says, that is right. Okay, so I've read multiple documents. So if I'm making you write something, obviously I would have read it somewhere. Okay, so but at the same time, now there, let's say you come across it somewhere again. So that's the reason I was asking. So let's get clarity on that. So whether I should take CACP as an attached office of Ministry of Agriculture, or I should look at it as a completely statutory body. Okay, so is that okay? That question has not come. The question was something different, but the explanation part, they have written it as statutory. Okay, so this is how it is. It is attached. Here also it is attached body because you don't have a defining act directly leading to CACP. Okay, so that is the reason. Anyhow, we'll get the clarity. We'll look into it and get the clarity. Is that okay? Right. Yes. So TPDS. Okay. I don't think they should be asking it, but just have a glance what it is, right? Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Okay, so here it is a part of NFSA and the households are entitled to 35 kg of food grains per month. Okay, so state duties are required to bear the distribution cost including margin to dealers and retailers as well as the transportation cost. So these areas just have a look. Okay, so states are required to bear. And intended beneficiaries, landlords, agricultural laborers, marginal farmers, rural artisans, okay, all primitive tribal households, all eligible BPL families of HIV positive persons. Is that okay? So these are some beneficiaries basically. Is this okay? MSP anyhow we know. See, this was the question I was talking about. According to MSME Development Act 2006, the medium enterprises are with investments in plant and machinery between 15 to 25. Actually, it is not a difficult question because micro, small and medium. The third one is medium, right? And it can't be so less. So based on that logic, yesterday we have talked about MSME classification. Okay, so based on that logic, easily students should have identified it. But some got confused in the exam. Is that okay? Yes. And all bank loans to MSMEs qualify under the priority sector. All bank loans. Okay, so that is a wrong statement. Okay, so this was which year? 23. So now they were saying all kind of words are eliminated, but it is not eliminated. Here and there we will find. Here and there will be logic working out. Here and there you will find some numbers, okay, so which will help you. See here, this was also a recent question, 2019. We have done this yesterday. It is under whom? Who takes care of NIIF? SEBI looks into it, okay. SEBI looks into it, so it's raising money. And NIF is different, NIIF is different. Okay, NIF, disinvestment proceeds. Okay. So here this number is wrong. See, generally numbers are wrong. But again, tomorrow you mark a wrong answer. You say, sir told that numbers are wrong. I am no way concerned. But the question here is generally. These are like generally numbers are wrong. So here this number you can see, it has a corpus of how many crores this is? That is too much, no? You think a corpus of 4 lakh crores for a fund? Okay, so 4 lakh crores. So what is the corpus? 40,000. Is that okay? Is that okay? 40,000, that's the number actually. See, this question is related to planning. 5-year plans we have seen yesterday. Is it visible? Okay. See, in the 5th 5-year plan, when you are fighting with poverty, you don't have the luxury. Finance is a luxury. I think you're getting my point, no? So Indira Gandhi madam is talking about Garibi Hatao, okay, and in third 5-year plan, trouble. Okay, then 1970s, you're talking about poverty-related aspect. So financial sector as a primemost aspect is a very difficult thing. Is that okay? Understood. Okay. So you may get a doubt now. The doubt can be, no, banks were nationalized, no. When were banks nationalized? 1969. So that should be coming up in which 5-year plan? So 3 plans, 3 plan holiday. So after 66, we had 3 plan holidays, no, 66 to 69. Okay, so then comes 4th 5-year plan, right? So that is also not 5th, based on that logic, if you feel in the exam. Okay, so I'm just thinking like what doubt can come to you. Like in the exam, probably you may say, oh, bank nationalization can be financial sector. So I will think in that way. That way, if you think also, it can't be 5, it has to be 4. Okay, so if I work on that logic, probably that statement I have to eliminate. Okay, so is that okay? So that I will eliminate. That means my option should be among A or B. Till there you can come. Okay, so here you can see anyhow, I have to understand the first statement because second statement is anyhow there in both the things. Is that okay? So that means if I know the first statement, then I know the answer. That's it. That is how you will think of such questions. You can't say, oh, planning is factual. You should use logic. That is why those numbers you should remember. 66, 69, 80. The logic is not that they will ask a straightforward question. They'll not ask a factual question. They'll ask some question like this. Then I will use my logic because I know which 5-year plan was implemented when. Then you can use your logic. So if you don't know and you're writing down thinking, then there will be trouble. Got the point, right? Okay. So here you can see from the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards substitution of basic and capital good interest. Okay. This is thrust. Okay. Okay. Is that okay? Yes. Wait. Till there, I think it is okay. No confusion, right? This is about marketplace and inventory model. I think you would have seen this. This is again related to FDI. So FDI is allowed into e-commerce in the marketplace model, not into the inventory model. Okay, so with reference to that thing in the news, this question was asked. Okay, they can sell their own goods in addition to offering their platforms as marketplaces. Somebody who can sell their own good is something like an inventory model. So Amazon is basically a marketplace model. Amazon is only creating a marketplace for buyers and sellers to meet. Amazon FDI is allowed in the marketplace model. FDI is not allowed in the inventory based model. So this question is related to that concept. Is that okay? In 2 hours, I think 1 hour 45 minutes, 2 hours, it should be over. Infrastructure, I'll tell you what to read. And of course, I've put some 35 areas which I felt it is important from the current. Okay, so now how did I identify? Based on the number of times it was repeated, that's all. But is it that I've copy pasted from our material also. So from magazines, which I felt like this area question may come. So I've copy pasted that area. So for example, public debt. So the objective is what? So current areas which I've put or you would have identified. I'm not saying this is ultimate. I'm only saying that I felt these are important based on the number of times it got repeated. Okay, so when you read public debt, you'll also understand, for example, public debt, is there government can borrow only through public debt or government can borrow through any other means? Other liabilities are also there. So when you're talking about government debt, so it includes public debt and it can also borrow through other liability. Right? Public debt means what then? Acha. No, not the meaning. I don't want the synonym. I want the definition. How do I define a public debt? The debt of public. Internal debt. Okay. All internal debt can be public debt. So this is what I want you all to check. I think you're getting my point, right? Suppose public debt is in current affair. You would have read it in PT also. So you read public debt is 80% it is crossing and all that. But you may miss out on like what exactly is public debt. So that is where a question can come. It is not the current, it is the concept of the current. So there you will keep your eyes open. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say. So suppose the debt taken by the government by keeping Consolidated Fund of India as backing. Heard of it? Taking Consolidated Fund of India as backing. Okay, and then there are other liabilities through which the government can also borrow. Is that okay? Yes. So that is how. So that is what you should be doing. So with respect to the words which we have identified, suppose there is something like trademarks in the current affair. Okay, so trademark was there. So what are the acts related to trademark? Were there any previous questions with respect to trademark? Was there any question on GI Act earlier? Then what are the new GIs that have been pushed in? Okay, so new GIs. So any new GIs with respect to the agriculture related aspect, with respect to rice. Yesterday I was putting rice. Okay, so with respect to rice and other areas. So any new GI status that has been given. So your research has to go like that. And then you will stop there. It is not like, okay, trademark. It is under TRIPS. Okay, but trademark is in newspaper for certain reasons. I'll show you the reason. If it is there for a reason, then I will go deeper. I'll go to the website and check. It takes hardly 1 or 2 minutes, but probably one option can be eliminated. Is that okay? So that is what you should do. Same applies to my PT also. So when I'm doing any important, suppose that if 3-4 areas are repeating continuously. Okay, so for example, state guarantees was one current affair in our material. State guarantee. So RBI was asking states to be careful with respect to the center coming up with state guarantees. Okay, so there is one technical area also which is called as GSEC lending. GSEC lending of GSEC only. So that is a complicated thing. But first of all, when I talk about guarantees, then you will talk about, then you will think last 5 years state government debts, have they increased, decreased? If they have increased, then which states in the recent past their debt to GDP is more? Which states the debt to GDP is more? It's a simple fact only. Like which state the debt to GDP is more? Okay, so some states the debt to GDP is high. For example, Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so these states the debt to GDP is on the very high side. It is way above what encasing committee recommendations have mentioned. So encasing was saying 20% overall. Like 40% should come from the center side, 20 should come from the state side. Okay, is that okay? So what is this logic of guarantee? So when you talk about guarantee, then comes this word, what is a contingent liability? Okay, contingent liability. Does FRBM cover contingent liability? Yes, FRBM also covers contingent liability. So like this. So is that okay? In our material also it is mentioned what is a contingent liability. Got it right? Okay, so once I do that for some 50 topics, then we are okay. We are okay. If he wants to ask something else, let him ask. Got the point right? Okay, so GFCF was in news. Okay, why was it in news? It says GFCF has come down. If you take the data, GFCF has come down. That means GFCF is a data. GFCF data if I collect from last 10 years, let's say 2011-12 till date, and also savings to GDP ratio, they have come down. So GFCF has come down means then I will dig deeper into GFCF. I'll take GFCF as a topic and see what are the things that will come in GFCF. We will go beyond UPSC books when I look at GFCF because it is in news. For example, patents, are they part of GFCF? Patents are also part of GFCF. Patent. Okay, so patent need not be purely tangible. Are you able to get this? But patents will also be part of my gross fixed capital formation. Is that okay? Like this. Okay, I'll come to that later. So when we talk about this is a basic observation of infrastructure and the need for infrastructure. So government was continuously focusing. So there is a chart which I have put in the budget rapid revision, which I have pulled it from our interim budget only, which shows the trend with respect to increase in capital expenditure of the government from 2016 till date. So how the capital expenditure of the central government is increasing. So that is important. And what is effective capital expenditure? So in the budget chart, you will also find at the bottom there is one graph which shows effective capital expenditure. So you'll tell me in the break. After the break, you'll tell me what is the difference between capital expenditure, effective capital expenditure. Okay. So here you can see this $5 trillion can be achieved. Modi ji in 2018 has come up with this $5 trillion target, which is a nominal GDP. And he said this 5 trillion I will achieve if everything is rotating together. Okay. And for that, we need investment, private investment and export. Primarily, they talk about two things. Out of all this also, one would be private investment and another would be export. And in that also, that was a period when we were talking about investment-led growth model. Investment-led growth model, C plus I plus G plus NX. In that, rather than C, I will focus on I as a major factor for my GDP development. And that is what we were saying, like India is shifting from consumption-led growth model to investment-driven growth model. Okay. So the factors that can affect my GDP or factors that can affect potential GDP. So one is labor productivity. Can it affect my GDP? Labor productivity. 2, incremental capital output ratio. Yes. 3, availability of natural resources. Okay. Infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure. Infrastructure will also have an impact with respect to my GDP. Is that okay? Clear? So like this, there can be options with respect to GDP or potentially and policies of the government, like fiscal and monetary policy of the government, they can have an impact. Yes, they also can have an impact with respect to potential GDP of a country. Okay, so like that. So here infrastructure, why this infrastructure was in news is basically that point of time they were saying for private investor to invest, you need the government coming up with infrastructure funding, and here that point of time government was talking about national infrastructure pipeline, monetization pipeline, logistics policy and PM Gati Shakti. So 4 things it has announced to achieve that $5 trillion. 4 things were announced: infrastructure pipeline, monetization, logistics policy and Gati Shakti. Okay, infrastructure has multiplier effect on GDP. Statement right? Yes. Okay, infrastructure has positive externality. Yes. See, there can be negative externality, positive externality. I have included one difficult question from CDS 2024 in our first. You need not check that now if it is. So that was asked. That was related to externalities only. Is that okay? See, there can be some resources like land, etc. This is called as tragedy of commons. So tragedy of commons is something like if some person already has, it's a negative externality. Tragedy of commons is a negative externality. This was a question that was asked in the CDS 2024. So some resources, because I have more capacity, I'll be using it better. I'll be able to use it better than others. And it may not be available for the other party. Are you able to get this? It becomes a tragedy. That is also a negative externality. So in this context, this word called tragedy of commons has come up in the CDS 2024. Is that okay? Is that okay? Clear? Fine, fine. So now, infrastructure has a impact on positive externality, multiplier effect. Yes, all this is there. And there are different types of infrastructure, which is already given in our material also. So one is we have economic infrastructure, social infrastructure. Okay, so soft infrastructure is basically about human capital. Soft infrastructure, human capital. Okay, so you can see here human capital. Hard infrastructure, physical system that is necessary to run a modern industrialized nation, like road, highway and all that. Okay, so then we have critical infrastructure, government as being essential for functioning of the society. Critical for functioning of the society, like telecommunication, etc. So here there are basic differences between social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. Social infrastructure, positive externality. So whenever economic infrastructure is there, will it have a positive externality in the form of social infrastructure? Yes. Because economic infrastructure is there, people's purchasing power will increase. Road is there, people are coming there. All the corpus funds in India are managed by SEBI. Yes. Most of the corpus funds. It need not be all, but most. Okay. It helps the economic systems from outside, okay, and it improves the quality of human resources, expenditure on it, etc. Significance of infrastructure, I think you can easily, that is purely English, but you will remember multiplier effect, positive externality, these kind of words. Okay, helps in GDP. Anything related to GDP, infrastructure is there? Yes. Okay. Now, national infrastructure pipeline, here so infrastructure financing, yesterday we have seen in your asset liability mismatch, takeout financing. What is takeout financing? It's a mechanism where you're using short-term deposits or short-term liabilities for funding long-term loans. Is that okay? Yes. So PPP, we have seen yesterday all this, hybrid annuity and other things. Viability gap funding, VGF, we have talked about it. Economic project, maximum up to 40. Social project, it can go up to 80%. 80, 40 plus 40. This is what I have mentioned, right? 40, 80. Okay. So policies for infrastructure, we have, this is the policy for infrastructure here. Through National Infrastructure Pipeline 2020 to 25, 111 lakh crore to be pushed into 9,000 projects. 111 lakh crore to be pushed into 9,000 projects. This is the target. Okay, so in the NIP, there was also a suggestion that you will combine Invest India Grid and Project Monitoring Group under the NIP. Is that okay? So Invest India Grid is something like you can take it as a platform for monitoring how NIP is performing. Okay, so here you can see. So group of various infrastructure projects to be executed over 5 years from 2020 to 25. And this is mainly 111 lakh crore, 9,000 projects, $5 trillion target which we have kept. Is that okay? Yes. And NIP is hosted on this grid which is Invest India Grid. NIP is hosted on this grid which is called as Invest India Grid. Okay. Invest India Grid acts as a centralized portal to track and review the project, and it is under the DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce. So he can come up with a statement. If at all is coming up with a statement, you should be in a position to identify. So Invest India Grid under DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Right? Project Monitoring Group is an institutional mechanism put in place for resolution of issues, faster approval of projects. So faster approval of projects, that is the main objective of the Project Monitoring Group. So basically with investment of 500 crore and above, you're talking about faster approvals to be given which are stuck. Okay, so that is about. So national monetization pipeline. So in that 111 lakh crore, you want to arrange 6,000 crore through NMP, monetization. So monetization is nothing but I'm not selling my asset, I am leasing my assets. Existing brownfield assets which I have, I'm trying to lease it, generate revenue out of it, using it for greenfield. Is that okay? Is that okay? InvITs also run in the similar manner. Of course, InvITs, heard of InvITs? So government InvITs. Now one more question. When we talk about green bonds, heard of green bonds in news? Okay, so is it that the green bonds only government can issue or even private players can issue? Both can issue. Government can issue, even private player can also issue. Okay, so green bonds, will there be coupons announced? Got the question? Coupon. Interest, is it announced? You'll tell me in the break, you check. See, green bond, 3 things you will check. One is green bonds, who all can issue? Who can issue? Okay. Second thing is, you will also check coupons announced, and generally the coupons will be high or low. Whenever you're talking about green bond, you're announcing coupons or interest, no rate. And that rate would be generally higher than the regular bonds or lower than the regular bonds. Check. Is that clear? Higher or lower? Then lower, then why are they buying then? Why will you buy? Okay. They are lower, he's right. He's right, but okay. You want to show that you are a good fellow by buying a green bond. That is the only motivating factor, or is there any other motivation? I will never buy. Suppose there is something like social stock exchange. Huh? Heard of it in your current affair? Social stock exchange. So who will raise money? NGOs, non-profit organizations. Yes. Can they pay dividends is the question. So when you're, okay, read about social, okay, I'll come to that anyhow. So you only check green bond. Green bond. Coupons for green bonds, are they lower or higher is the question. See, green bond, if they issue also, to classify yourself as a green bond, permissions have to be taken and all that. There is a cost involved for the company. To claim that you're using it for environment friendly related aspect also, you have to get some approvals, etc. So you're spending some money from your pocket. Are you able to get this? And therefore such companies can they offer higher coupon or lower coupon when they're already investing in the cost? Is the question. Is that okay? Yes. Okay, we'll see that. So here, this is monetization pipeline, existing brownfield projects to, is that okay? This, I think it is clear. It is monetizing. Private player is getting. Okay, and it is, the government is not selling off the asset. That is something which, PM Gati Shakti, it entails creation of a common umbrella platform with all the infrastructure projects pertaining to various ministries and departments. Instead of doing one task at a time and wasting people's money, why can't all the departments and ministries sit together, discuss and then implement? This is what is PM Gati Shakti in simple words. So otherwise in India, generally you push the road off and then you come up with doing other things. And then again you remove and you come up with optical cable, fibers and all that, and you waste people's money. So rather than that, you'll have an umbrella platform where 7 growth engines, road, rail, airport, etc. And there will be a policy where you discuss with everybody and you arrange the order of doing the things also. So this is what is called as PM Gati Shakti in simple words. National logistics policy. So there was a definition in your quick revision about logistics, but logistics refers to overall process of managing how resources are acquired, stored and transported to their final destination. Okay, so it involves several activities like transportation, packaging, warehousing and all this. Okay, so till the last mile delivery, everything is logistics. Okay, so but government's logistics definition is little different. When government is defining logistics, it talks about only 3 important areas: multi-modal logistic park, cold chain, cold storage facilities and warehouses. This is how government defines logistics. So government's definition of logistics primarily focuses on 3 important aspects. Is that okay? These are the 3 important. Multi-modal, see multi-modal, everything is there, rail is there, ship is there. Okay, so that is what it. Okay, and then you have warehouses and then cold chain. Here there is something like, as per the definition of logistics, how much is the minimum investment for the different entities? Minimum investment for multi-modal logistic park is around 50 crore. Is that okay? And warehouse around 25. So this is, so government's definition is around these 3. Now one more important thing is, India's expenses on logistics is very high compared to other countries. See, you can see here, India's expenditure is around like, our logistic cost is around 14 to 18%, and our logistic policy says we will have to bring it down to 8% of GDP by 2030. That 8% is also higher than what US is today. Got the point right? Okay, so your target is by 2030, my logistic cost should be brought down to 8% of GDP. Is that okay? Okay, so that is the main target. And currently it is around 14 to 18%. If you get statements like our logistic costs, we are more efficient than BRICS countries and all, those statements are wrong. And when we talk about logistics, we have a skewed logistics where everything, major chunk of transport happens through road. Rail, road. Okay, so inland waterways we don't use much. Rail also is comparatively less. It is purely, India is purely a truck nation. And our roads are extraordinary. Okay, so that is the problem. Okay, so here you can see global transportation around 25% for road. For India, you can see 60. So there were suggestions that you also have to work on your other modes of transport. other modes of transport other than road. Is that okay? So again, there are, in the quick revision material, there are some committees with respect to road and rail and other things, isn't it? Okay, so those committees you will go through once. Is that Bibek Debroy committee? These committees are there? Okay, yes. So here, one more thing here, logistics performance index. This is given by World Bank. World Bank gives this index, and India obviously will be bad. We are not good in logistics. You can see the cost, no, 8 to 14% of our GDP. This clearly shows our logistics system is not efficient. There's no discussion. You can't say I'm efficient. Okay, so the data clearly is showing that we are not efficient. Okay, so this is the logistics performance index, and this is rank of India. Okay, and one more thing here is leads logistics ease across different states. I think this is there in the material also. So leads is another index which is similar to the, in the similar line of the logistic performance index. Similar line of the LPI, logistic performance index. You have another index which is leads. So this is based on World Bank's logistic performance index methodology. But here it is released by whom? Is that okay? So, and what it does is, ranking is based on 3 characteristics: infrastructure, services, operating and regulatory environment. And ranking of states is also divided based on these classifications. It is not same for every state, and this is how it classifies. Is that okay? I want you all to go through once dedicated freight corridors and these committees also. Yesterday somebody was asking, how will we remember everything? Nobody can remember. Even repeater fellow will also not remember. Remember. The only important thing is you should not be worried that you will not remember. Got the point, right? If you are not remembering also, it's okay. But if the worry starts that I will not remember, then that will eat you up. So better is remember this, that nobody can remember everything. For example, telecommunication, road, rail networks, what is our rank? I'll remember the fact. It's not possible. It is impossible. But there will be some clues in the options using which I will mark because I've read. Is that okay? So it's not that you have to remember and there will be a factual question that they will ask. I've put the answer. Okay, it's okay. I copied the answer also. So there was this question on coal sector. Coal sector, now coal blocks are allocated on lottery basis. Until recently, India imported coal to meet the shortages, but now India is self-sufficient. How can we be self-sufficient? Okay, so I think you got the point, right? So it's like I can eliminate 3 and then answer is there. Got the point, right? Which year? 2019. Okay, so then like, and people would have mugged up the coal sector also, but they would have messed up the question. So it's not about mugging coal, it is about marking the right answer. Got the point, right? So you will find clues. You will find clues. Okay, so in the question paper, what if the question paper comes like last year? Cutoff will be 75. CSAT every day you have to practice. Those who are not good in maths, every day 5 hours, CSAT only. 5 to 6 hours. That will only push you in. I am telling you, you may be very good in GS1. You can get 75. But because, why that was 75 is because of CSAT. Got the point, right? Most of them cleared. They've got 85, 80, 79, 80. Many are there, but all of them have gone in CSAT. So if you know that you're bad or good in CSAT, you personally know based on which 5 hours should be CSAT. 5 hours every day, and then only GS. GS is not, you can manage. Is this clear? You should understand that. See here, now coal blocks are allocated on lottery basis. No, you have competitive bidding of coal blocks. Okay. So I want you all to, I read few things. I've underlined somewhere. Dedicated freight corridors. Okay. So that has to be read. In your PLI scheme, you would have read it. PLI scheme in detail. And PLI for MSME also separately. Right? Bharatmala Pariyojana. Infrastructure Investment Fund. Last year they've already asked, so I don't think they will ask. Okay, so but you will read REIT. I asked you all to check REIT. Is FDI allowed into REITs? Allowed? Yes. Real Estate Investment Trust. Can individuals invest in REIT? Okay. I'll show you something there later. Go through these ones, just a glance only. Interim budget, just a glance. This page. Rakesh Mohan Committee. If you read this, anyhow you can use it in mains later. Infrastructure, there you can use. Okay, so Rakesh Mohan Committee, you will read. Vivek Debroy Committee. Just a glance, what it is. Udan. It has come up. Civil aviation, basically. Project Unnati. Read it? Current affair. Okay, so those are the words. Okay, so now the question is like, we can't dig deep, but those measures which are mentioned in the budget, those areas you will read once. Okay, so what we are going to achieve. Okay. Enjoying life, huh? Okay, good. Okay, so 7 o'clock I'll explain those concepts. That is rear and near. So there's a, why students have a problem, I don't know. See, RER is one, RER, real exchange rate is one, means trade is there or no trade? No trade or trade? No trade. Real exchange rate is one, see. Anyhow, this question was asked, this is asked, right? Near versus rear. I think day before yesterday also there was one article in the newspaper, yesterday or day before, I don't know, with the comparison, like it talks about India's situation. Okay, so with respect to effective exchange rate. Okay, so here, when I talk about real exchange rate, if you have to do it through a formula, so a simple formula, it is nominal exchange rate multiplied by abroad price, foreign price, divided by the local price, Indian price. See, I've done this by I've derived this in class. We have seen that I would have talked about US and India, ice creams are sold. Okay, so ice creams are sold. This is basically nominal. Nothing but nominal exchange rate. Nominal exchange rate. See how is it? We can also talk about, see here. Suppose India and US are there, and let's say $1 is 80 rupees. This is what? Nominal exchange rate. Okay. And let's say ice cream is costing 20 rupees. 20 rupees is one ice cream. Okay. And $1 is 80. If $1 is 80, we will export, or US fellow will buy from India, or India fellow will buy from US. US will buy from India because he will get 4 ice creams. 4 ice creams. Is that okay? Suppose this 80 becomes 160 in the absolute term. This is absolute term. So absolute term is something like the number absolutely is increasing. Number is increasing, but rupee value is decreasing. This E is nominal exchange rate. Absolutely the number is increasing, but rupee value is depreciating. That should be clear. Okay, so if this E becomes 160, instead of 80, if this E becomes 160, then what will happen? Our exports will increase or decrease? Exports will increase. They will get 8 ice creams. Is that okay? 8 ice creams for 160 rupees. So $1 they'll be able to get 8 ice creams almost. Okay, so if it becomes 160, that means my trade competitiveness is directly proportional to directly proportional to this absolute number. Absolute number, directly proportional to this number. If number is becoming 80 to 160 to 320, that means India's exports will increase. Or if I say rupee value is depreciating, nominal exchange rate, rupee value is depreciating. That is what is 80 becoming 160. That means rupee value is depreciating. It means India will become more export competitive. That is the meaning. India will become more export competitive. Is that okay? Yes. So that is what this is what is. Similarly, if ice cream this is US price of ice cream. So ice cream in US, if it becomes $2 instead of $1. Now I'm taking ice cream in India is 20 rupees and ice cream in US is $1 earlier. Now suppose ice cream in US becomes $2. We need to be fast. Ice cream in US becomes $2, then they will buy more ice creams from us or less ice creams? More. Obviously, see, $1 they were getting 1 ice cream earlier. Now $2 they are getting 1 ice cream. So with the $2 they will be able to get 8 ice creams from India. With $1 they are getting 4 ice creams. See here, one ice cream is 20 rupees. $1 is 80 rupees. Means they will be getting how many ice creams? 4 ice creams, right? 4 ice creams. So in US, if ice cream is $2, they will be getting how many ice creams? 8 ice creams. So they will, instead of buying ice cream in US, they will buy ice cream from India. So that means it is directly proportional to the trade, my trade benefit, trade competitiveness is directly proportional to the price in US. Higher the ice cream price in US, more would be my exports. $2 becomes 4, they will buy more ice creams from India. Is that okay? This is US price. This is India price. It is inversely proportional to Indian price. Simple. If India's price at India, it becomes 40 rupees ice cream. One ice cream is becoming 40. That is the denominator, Indian price. Then automatically US will buy less ice creams from India. So that means it is inversely related. Trade is inversely related to the price of ice cream in India. So my trade competitiveness can be written in this formula. That is why directly proportional inverse. Based on this, you get nominal exchange rate multiplied by price of ice cream in US divided by price of ice cream in India. This is how I get that formula. But if you remember E into or nominal exchange rate multiplied by price of ice cream in US divided by price of ice cream in India. I think it is clear. This is nothing but a real exchange rate. See, what is this real exchange rate? See, real exchange rate is something like, let's say, I am getting one ice cream. See here, let's say I'm taking this ice cream as one single basket. This ice cream I'm taking as one single basket, one ice cream. Same ice cream you're comparing. So basket, this ice cream is basket. Okay. So if first case, $1 is 80 rupee, $1 is 80 rupee, and ice cream in India is 20 rupees. Okay. So that means for one basket of goods in US, you are able to get how many baskets of good from India? 4 baskets. Basket is nothing but in that basket I have only ice cream. For convenience, I'm using the word basket. So for one basket of goods in US, I'm able to get 4 baskets of goods from India. Is that okay? Yes. Now suppose if for one basket of goods of US, if I am able to get only 2 baskets of goods from India, instead of 4, if I'm only going to get 2 baskets of goods from India, that means ice cream became 40 rupees now. So ice cream became 40 rupees. So for one basket, one ice cream in US, one basket of good in US, I am able to get how many baskets of goods from India? Ice cream? 2. Now that means Indian goods have become costly. Or I can say India has become less trade competitive. Is that okay? Or I can say that is something, that means what? This is basically an indication that my real exchange rate has increased. Earlier I'm exchanging 4 basket of goods with 1 basket of US goods. Or I'm exchanging 4 ice creams from India with 4 ice creams from India with 1 ice cream of US. Now I'm exchanging only 2 ice creams of India with 1 ice cream of US. Are you able to get this? That means what has happened to rupee, real exchange rate? Real exchange rate has increased. Are you able to get this? Okay, so now if I am able to get same basket, 1 basket and 1 basket, then it's no trade. Okay, now is that okay? Is this clear? Okay, now see here. Suppose if you see, this is what is real exchange rate. Real exchange rate is between 2 currencies only. Okay, so I have written it like this, right? P star by P. Now suppose, what is the problem? US fellow is buying all the ice creams from India. US fellow is buying the ice creams from India means demand for ice creams in India will increase or decrease? Increase. Everybody is buying ice cream. US fellow is buying ice cream from India means my ice cream price in India will increase in general over a period of time. Okay. And nobody is buying ice cream in US and they are buying from India means what will happen over a period of time? The prices in US will fall. This is what should happen ideally. This is because there is no demand here and here there is demand. Okay. Now what is the impact of US buying more ice creams from India? What will happen to my nominal exchange? Will it have an impact on nominal exchange rate? Yes, tomorrow statement comes up like nominal exchange rate can also have impact on the trade can also have impact on nominal exchange rate. Yes, it can also have. See, suppose everybody is buying ice cream from India, then what will be the impact on nominal exchange rate? See, this E absolute number will increase or decrease? E absolute number will decrease. or increase? Decrease. Why? More dollars are coming in. I think you got the point, right? More dollars are coming in, so my rupee value will appreciate. So this will also decrease. Is that okay? Yes. This number will increase, absolute number will decrease, but rupee value will appreciate. Absolute number will decrease, but rupee value will appreciate. Is that okay? So denominator is going down, denominator is increasing, numerator is decreasing. Is that okay? This will happen till it becomes 1. If it becomes 1, then there will be no trade. Okay, no? Yes. So no questions asked now. I think it should be clear. Okay, so that is the reason trade is always with respect to real exchange rate. Real exchange rate is not about currency. Now, will inflation have an impact? Yes, inflation, price parity will decide, no? If inflation in India is increasing, then automatically I will become less trade competitive. Is that okay? But in reality, it will not become 1. That's a different case. This is called as law of equal price. Tomatoes. Arbitrage, I was explaining, I'll take tomato from Karol Bagh, sell somewhere. Okay, so ultimately it becomes 1. But here it can't become 1 because taxes will be there, government taxes and all that, transportation, other things. It will not become 1. But if it becomes 1, there is no trade between India and US. Now, if it is becoming 4, 5, 6, what does it mean? If it is becoming closer to 1, okay, I think you got my point, right? So it is like if it is 2 and if it is 8, okay, where you will export more is the question. Are you able to get this? Yes. Is that okay? As it is getting closer to 1, I'll become less trade competitive. Or why my rear is, what is happening to my rear as it is becoming closer to 1? My rear is appreciating. I'll be giving only less basket of goods with the same basket of goods of US. That is what is happening. As I give 8 basket of my goods with 1 basket of US goods, then automatically I will be exporting more. Is that okay? No? Some are blankly. Okay? Not okay. Rear is equal to 1, no trade. Okay. So that should you remember. And near and rear number these are index numbers. And if this index number increases, if this index number is increasing, India will be less trade competitive. This is, I think I have explained that. The basket I should give to get that rupee. Yesterday, Indian Express explained column was talking, I think, yesterday or day before yesterday, it was talking about this line. So, and this is already asked. Okay, near is increasing means Indian rupee is what? Appreciating. Or India is becoming less trade competitive. Gap between these two is increasing means inflation is increasing. The price differential is increasing. Is that okay? Yes. That is why you say rear is adjusted to inflation. Rear is adjusted to inflation because rear is always talked about based on baskets only. Okay, so now there is a link between PPP and rear. See here, I can write rear as something like nominal divided by P India price divided by P star. Okay, so I didn't want to write this formula, but it is like nominal exchange rate. You don't like the formula, you put it like this. Divided by India price divided by foreign price. So India price of basket, if I say India price of basket is how much? 20 rupee to $1. This is, so $1 is 20. $1 is 20. This $1 is 20 is what? $1 is 20 is nothing but my, what exchange rate is that? This is nothing but PPP. I can also write it as near divided by PPP. Okay, near divided by PPP exchange. Okay, like that also you can write. Enough. 8 o'clock we'll see tax points, that's it. Okay, so this is see the problem is I've already asked, so I don't think, if they ask also, one statement may come and you should be in a position to identify. Okay, so some areas I've identified which I felt they are important. 7 o'clock I'll give you a break, after 10 minutes. Okay, so this is about critical minerals. So you can just put later, you can also read. This is there in your magazine. Okay, so are critical minerals same as rare earth metals? No, both are different. Okay, so critical minerals are important for certain reasons. So one is economic development, two, national security. Okay, so all critical minerals are rare earth metals. Statement will be wrong. Okay, so critical minerals are significant, and the definition of critical minerals is availability or is based on aspects related to the affecting economic development and national security. Okay, so that is something which you will remember. 7-member committee constituted by Ministry of Mines has identified a set of 30 critical minerals of India. Okay, and in this context, I think critical mineral, you will understand what it is, what is the difference between a rare earth metal and critical mineral. Okay, so this was there in news. Then, see, FIs can invest in sovereign green bonds. FIs can invest in sovereign green bonds. Sovereign green bond. The word sovereign is what? Government related green bonds. So if there is a statement FIs cannot invest in sovereign green bond, then you should be in a position like understand. No. FIs can also, see, FIs can invest in GSEC, yes. T-bills, yes. Equity, yes. They can invest in equity. Today, a lot of FIs went away from India, yesterday and today. Stock market was not doing well. They were running away from India because of US federal rates issues. US federal rates, they are not expecting that the US will reduce the rate. US bonds are giving 4%, 4.5% return. So they feel that is safe and they are running away from India. Okay, so this is something which you keep in mind. See, green bonds in India, S-Bank was the first Indian bank to issue green infrastructure bonds in India in 2015. S-Bank, there are some problems, but we are not concerned. It's not about only government. Even a private fellow can issue green bonds. Is that clear? Okay. So SEBI has allocated the following 8 categories with the tag of green projects. So SEBI is clean transportation, sustainable water, renewable energy, climate change, energy efficiency, sustainable waste management, land use, biodiversity conservation. So these are all, for these reasons you can issue. Is that okay? SEBI classifies. So green bonds are bonds issued by any sovereign, are bonds issued by any sovereign entity, intergovernmental groups, alliances and corporates with the aim that the proceeds of the bonds are utilized for projects. Is that okay? So that is about green bond. Coupons generally are less. Coupon values are generally less. Coupon is what along with the bond you are issuing. Okay, so why? Because already this fellow has to get approvals and other things. So I want to classify myself as for this project, means it's not like, if I suppose you are issuing a green bond, it's not like easy, okay, fine, issue a green bond. Okay. Inflation, deflation, disinflation, stagflation, okay, skewflation. See, skewflation is something like, this is not skew, this is shrink. Skew is something like, there is inflation because in certain commodities, not in all. It is skewed. Maybe food only is becoming costly, but other things are not, prices are not increasing. There can be price increase in 1 or 2 commodities which can lead to inflation. Okay, and other commodities the prices may be falling. This is basically skewflation. S-K-E-W. This is shrink. Shrinkflation. See, shrink and inflation. So, price may not increase, but your chips packet may become small. Parle G, Lay's, there is a lot of gap. Nowadays I'm able to find, okay, so you have to dig deep to get the chips. Now all that is shrinkflation only. And the customer will not be able to identify, even with respect to the shampoo sachets and all. South Korea is very strict on this now. It is in news also. South Korea is going against them. In India, there's nothing like much about it. But see, shrinkflation is a combination, shrink and inflation. It is a form of hidden inflation. Hidden inflation. It occurs when a product size decreases as a response to increasing production costs or market competition. Reducing the size of a chocolate bar from 55 gram to 50, but the price remains the same, or cutting the number of days of an internet data pack from 2 months to 56 days, but keeping the price unaltered. We experience this. Okay, causes business often resorts primarily because of high production costs, intense competition, etc. They do many things, you know, toothpaste, they will, to increase the sales, they'll increase the knob. So in the management classes, you tell, no, this is a very common thing. It's there from beginning. It's not that it has come up now, but now they are observing, that's all. I want you all to read DTAA once. Okay, so I think it will hardly take. See, Mauritius, these are all tax havens, right? So tax havens. So earlier, maximum FDI used to come from Mauritius-like country. Earlier, not now. Okay, so earlier, so in the break you will tell me today we are getting maximum FDI from where? Singapore. Okay, so earlier maximum FDI was coming through the Mauritius, and that is because of these DTA agreements, etc. So about, you will read, India and Mauritius have amended their DTA to address treaty abuse related to tax evasion and avoidance. Evasion, avoidance are different. Avoidance is legal, using the tax loopholes. Okay, so this is what is about, see, National Anti-Profiteering Authority in GST. Remember, I've used this word. Okay, so this is to prevent profiteering. So what is profiteering? Making undue benefits. Suppose GST Council is reducing the slabs and still the trader is not reducing the taxes. So then what GST rules say, that this is something like the trader has to identify the customer and give away the money back along with interest. And if you are not able to find him, there is a fund that is created which is called as Consumer Welfare Fund. And this company fellow should put the money in that Consumer Welfare Fund. So this is again profiteering. So companies always resort to profiteering through different ways. So one can be using the tax loophole system, tax rules, tax loopholes, etc. Avoidance. This amendment applies to all income such as capital gains, dividends, fee, or technical services. Nowadays is more into asking, no? So like these kind of questions, whether they will be taxed, not taxed, etc. So DTA, this amendment applies to income such as capital gains, dividends, fee, or technical services. Okay, so you will read once. You can read later. Okay, so base erosion, profit shifting. Heard of this word? I've talked about this earlier. Now, this recent amendment does not clarify whether past investments will be exempted for a new regulation. This is also there. Okay, this is one issue there. Okay, recently government has approved inclusion of rice and wheat under its price stabilization fund. Okay, so what is this price stabilization fund? Where will it fall? Okay, who handles it? So who maintains the price stabilization fund? It is SFAC. So price stabilization fund, Small Farmers Agri-Business Consortium maintains the price stabilization fund as a central corpus fund. Somebody was asking, all corpus funds under SEBI or what? Okay, so that was a, see here, this Small Farmers Agri-Business Consortium maintains the price stabilization fund as a central corpus fund. So what is this? The price stabilization fund was set up in 2014-15 under the Department of Agriculture. So the PSF scheme was transferred to the Department of Consumer Affairs in 2016. Is that okay? So that is a fact which you have to remember. Okay, the regulation of the fund management is centrally managed by a price stabilization fund management committee that approves all state governments and central agencies' proposals. And the SFAC maintains the PSF as a central corpus fund. The fund, what is the objective? Aimed at increasing or decreasing the price of selected commodities by distributing or procuring the commodity to stabilize the price in a range. The fund is usually used for activities aimed at bringing down up the high or increase or decrease the prices, basically. You're stabilizing the prices. Okay, so it helps to regulate the price volatility of important agri-horticultural commodities like onion, potato, pulses. Okay, so are also added subsequently. So you also have rice and wheat being included there. Okay, so apart from the domestic procurement from farmers, wholesale mandis, import may also be undertaken with the support from the fund. With that fund, import is also allowed. I've underlined import. Generally, you may feel, oh no, import may not be. Okay, so then under the PSF scheme, interest-free loans are extended to state governments, UTs and central agencies to cover their working capital and related expenses incurred in the procurement and distribution of these commodities. You are trying to stabilize the prices of these items. So there is a cost incurred, and that cost is managed because of the fund. Is that okay? Clear? Understood? Later you will. InvITs, okay, take a break. Okay. So, InvITs, last year, I think there was this question on InvITs. Nobody expected that question with respect to these trusts that there will be a question. So, the question was something related to dividends being taxed, etc. Okay, so go through that question also once. It is also in news. InvITs are instruments that work like mutual funds. They are designated to pool small sums of money from a number of investors to invest in infrastructure assets that give cash returns over a period of time. Recently in news also, SEBI madam was also talking about InvITs and REITs as safe investments rather than depending on small caps. Okay, so listing InvITs are listed on exchanges just like stocks. Okay. Listed on, are mutual funds listed on exchanges? No. ETFs? Yes. Okay. Okay. So through IPO. So listing InvITs are listed on exchanges like stocks through initial public offering. So in the current affair, there is something like direct listing and IPO. So there's a difference between direct listing and IPO. So unlisted companies can also list themselves in the foreign stock exchanges. This was in news. Unlisted companies listing. So they can list themselves in the IFSC. Okay, so this is something like a difference between direct and indirect. Direct and IPO. IPO is different. So in IPO, do you think there will be something like valuations done before issuing the share? Yes, here there is nothing like a valuation, underwriter, valuations, etc. That is there. Okay, so fine. So regulated by, InvITs are regulated by SEBI. And you'll also go through the previous question. Okay, so. Now, real estate investment trusts, SEBI recently introduced amendments to REIT regulations outlining provisions for establishment of small and medium real estate investment trusts. This is the news. So earlier real estate investment trust is that's raising money. It is putting money into commercial big projects. Okay, so now the news is like you can also put the money into small and medium real estate investment. So that money will be pooled. You're putting the money not into big commercial projects. So difference between traditional REITs and small REITs. Traditional REITs invest in large-scale commercial properties like offices and malls, while SM REITs focus on smaller and medium-sized properties with lower values. This is one basic difference. So it maintains diversified portfolios, spreading risk across different property types within the real estate market. All this they're like the mutual fund only. Okay, so small and medium real estate investment trust may raise funds from Indian as well as foreign investors by the issuance of units. When you buy something, whether it is InvITs or REIT, units will be allotted to you. So in mutual funds also, they're based on the net asset value of the fund, you will get some units. Okay, so the minimum subscription size for units, 10 lakh is treated as 1 unit. 10 lakhs is treated as 1 unit. To establish this trust, there must be minimum of 200 unit holders, not including the investment manager, etc. So this, I think, he'll not dig deep into this. That's what I feel. Okay, the investment manager responsible for launching an SM REIT must have a net worth of at least 20 crore and a separate trustee. So micro REITs can be listed with asset values ranging between 50 crore to 500. These funds will be utilized for acquiring and managing real estate assets, aiming to generate income for investors. Ownership of these assets will be organized through one or more schemes, each operated under special purpose vehicle. So another reading which you will do, since InvIT is already asked, you will see REIT. So REIT, what it is, FDI is allowed into. Is FDI allowed into real estate? Check and tell me right away. Not about townships, not about building bridges and other things. In general, is FDI allowed into real estate? Not. Is it allowed into REIT? Yes. Okay. Okay. Fine. 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 You'll do that research again. Okay. So now here there is this something called as, we have discussed poverty, multidimensional poverty index. Okay. And there is we have also talked about intensity, incidence of poverty, poverty gap ratio, squared poverty gap index, and these things, right? So in news is you have world poverty clock, not seen in the magazine, right? Okay, so but you will check. World, not there in the magazine, I do understand. It's like world poverty clock. See, now this is a live checking of poverty. Okay, so India earlier was one among the worst countries, but now the world poverty clock shows that we are doing well. Okay, so you will read about world poverty clock. So less than 3% of India's population is now living under extreme poverty. Okay, so this is what is seen by the world poverty clock. The clock uses a daily income limit of $2.15 to present its findings. Less than $2.15. Okay, and accordingly, the number of people in India living in extreme poverty decreased to about 3.4 crore in 2024 from 4.69 in 2020 to making up 2.4% of the total population. So less than 3%. Less than 3, that is the data. It is in news because World Poverty Clock says less than 3% of India's population is living under the extreme poverty conditions. Okay, so $2.15 per day poverty line, also called the extreme poverty line, represents the national poverty lines in the numerous poorest countries. Okay, so it measures progress towards World Bank's goal of reducing extreme poverty to under 3% by 2030. Okay, so what is World Poverty Clock? I want you all to go and check back again. The World Poverty Clock offers real-time poverty forecasts until 2030 for almost every country globally. Okay, so funding supported by International Fund for Agricultural Development and the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany. Okay, so working mechanism, the clock illustrates the global count of individuals living in extreme poverty. It categorizes them by age, gender, and whether they reside in rural, urban areas. Every second, some individuals rise out of poverty while others slip into it. So this tally is maintained through this World Poverty Clock. Okay, so go and check it back. Okay, that is in news. And I think you have not seen it anywhere. Okay, so therefore you will check it. Okay, another one here, FDI in space. This is there in our material. I've copied from the material. So recently, Union Cabinet has approved 100% FDI in space sector under the revised FDI policy. Is that okay? So that is again in current affairs. What is FDI and all, you should be knowing already. Many questions were already asked. And you know FI 10% and above. And FI is into basically, if I say money going into unlisted companies, unlisted, generally treated as FDI. Okay, in the listed company, the 10% criteria. The 10% criteria is in the listed company. Okay, so here, three entities, manufacturing of components and systems, subsystems for satellites, ground segment and user segment. Under the automatic route, FDI of up to 100% will be permitted. So, manufacturing of components and all, 100% FDI will be permitted through which route? Automatic route. Okay, but satellite manufacturing and operation, satellite data products, etc., 74% would be automatic. 74% automatic. Launch vehicles, etc., 49 would be automatic. Is that okay? 100% FDI is allowed. But each three areas, which is how much percentage is allowed through automatic, how much is allowed through non-automatic. When we talk about manufacturing of components and all, 100% FDI is through automatic only. Is that okay? It is there in your magazine. I've got it from the magazine only. So pulses was in news because Global Pulses Conference was held recently. And it suggested India to augment production of pulses to meet its nutritional requirements. So pulses is there in our MSP. India is the largest producer and consumer. Okay, so here if you see 2-day conference is jointly organized by National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India and Global Pulse Confederation. So here current production, pulse production has increased by 60%. India's contribution, India holds the title of world's largest producer, consumer and importer. Is that okay? Producer, consumer and importer. Okay, so these are what you have to check. Okay, and India contributes to 25% to global production, consuming 27% of the world's total and importing around, numbers are not so important, but that line is important. Pulses cover about 20% of the food grain area and contribute to 7 to 10% of the food grain production in the country. So pulse variety contribution, gram is the leading pulse, comprising about 40% of the total production. Is that okay? Yes. And current status of pulse variety, India now produces enough chickpeas and chanas and all various other pulse crop to meet its own needs with only a minor shortfall in pigeon peas and black gram. Okay. Is that okay? Now this is, so one more thing that was in news is related to DSIB. Globally systematically important banks are those banks which have emerged during the Basel III guidelines, right? So Basel III guidelines, these are banks global. So they are something like too big to fail. Banks which are too big to fail, they should not fail, in simple words. Okay. So in the similar line, you have DSIB. So recently what RBI did, RBI issued the list of DSIBs. Okay. And RBI has retained state SBI, HDFC, ICICI as DSIBs. But there are, in that also there is classification in the DSIBs. So from one classification to other classification, they have pushed it, but it is there. So DSIBs are banks whose potential failure might seriously disrupt the financial system due to the bank's size. Okay, bank size, cross-jurisdictional activities, complexity, etc. Okay, are hence considered too big to fail. That is what. The framework for handling DSIBs was published by RBI in 2014, was effective from 2015. From that point of time, they are publishing DSIBs on a regular basis. RBI places these banks in appropriate buckets. Different buckets are there in the DSIB classification, depending upon their systematic importance scores. Based on the bucket in which a DSIB is there, an additional CET1 capital has to be maintained. So common equity tier 1 capital, I've made you write earlier. So common equity tier 1 capital, good capital. Okay, so it is in addition to the conservation buffer. In addition to the conservation buffer, these DSIBs have to maintain additional CET1 capital. Is that okay? Okay, so they have to maintain additional CET1. Okay, so RBI places it. In case of a foreign bank having a branch presence in India, is a globally systematically important bank, it has to maintain additional CET1 capital surcharge in India as applicable to it as a GSIB, proportionate to its risk-weighted assets in India. That means even a foreign bank which is having branch in India, if it is a kind of a GSIB there, then it also has to maintain the CET1, additional common equity capital. CET is what? Common equity tier 1. Good capital. Don't dig deep, but good capital. Is that okay? So this again you will see. And yesterday I was talking about additional tier 1 bond. I asked you to find out. And I said, these bonds do not have specific maturity. Okay, and there is no guaranteed interest. They can call off the interest in between if they want. I asked you to check that. Okay, so, and additional tier bonds are not for everybody. Common people like us should not take. It is generally high net worth individuals, risk takers, etc. See, hedge funds, alternate investment funds. So these are not for everybody. So if you are into finance, you created a hedge fund, means you should look for high net worth individuals, put their money. Okay, so it's not for everybody. Is that okay? You will read green infrastructure, anyhow it's there in news, grey infrastructure also. So what is this grey infrastructure? And insurance surety bonds, it is there in the material. Okay, so it is there in your magazines. What are insurance surety? What is the purpose of insurance surety bond? How many entities are there in that? You have an obligee, surety fellow, Okay, and you have the principal fellow. 3 entities will be there. Obligee is somebody who's going to get the benefit of the surety bond. Is that okay? It is a kind of an insurance for long-term infrastructure related projects. Long-term infrastructure risk is high, so therefore it offers a kind of an insurance. And it is, you don't have 3 parties, you have three entities involved in the insurance surety bond. You call them as principal, then surety and obligee. So 3 entities are there, it is there in your magazines. You will go check once, what is the purpose you will check. It has been issued, approval has come for one of the bonds, so therefore it is in news. And then how many parties are there, how does it function? Okay, yes. Foreign listing, direct listing. Okay, so foreign listing, direct listing, unlisted companies directly getting listed outside. Okay, so that is, and how is direct listing different from an IPO? How is direct listing different from IPO? And you'll also read about GIFT City. Is that okay? Yes, in the current it is there. And rear and near. Okay, so this is a little conceptual. So I'll come to, this is anyhow I pasted from our material. It is there in the material. Incremental cash reserve ratio. Okay, so this is to reduce liquidity in the banking system or increase liquidity? Reduce. Additional CRR you are asking them to maintain during a certain period of time. In addition to the existing CRR, you are asking the bank to maintain an additional CRR. Of how much they ask them to maintain? 10%. In addition to the regular CRR, an additional 10% during that period only. So this is basically when they felt that the banks have a lot of cash. Is that okay? Okay. So you will also check all our previous questions, RBI policy, you have general debt. Okay. So what is sovereign debt? Okay. What is general debt? General debt means what? And what is public debt? Public debt. Is it like all sovereign debt, public debt? So public debt is different, little different, because in the public debt you are keeping consolidated fund of India as security. So government can borrow through external liability also. Okay, so is that okay? And then out of the total debt for the government, internal debt is obviously more than the external debt. That is there in your magazines anyhow. Internal more than external. With respect to the external debt also, okay, so I talked about one ratio the other day, external debt servicing ratio. Remember that? EDSR, I've written something like 5%. Okay, no problem. UPSC will not ask. Okay, so it will be simple question they will ask, but you should know the words at least, like external debt. All our external debt is in dollar, wrong. It is 54, 55, followed by rupee. And rupee debt servicing, I said it is part of my capital account. In that you will have principal plus interest visible in the capital account. Unlike regular loans where the principal would be in the capital and interest would be in the current. Mention this. Okay. So that area, you know, see, this is something I think it is there in your material also. Reverse flipping word. Flipping, reverse flipping. See, reverse flipping refers to phenomena where international startups relocate their headquarters to India. So earlier they were putting their headquarters outside. Startups were moving away from India. Now reverse flipping means these startups are coming back to India and subsequently go public on Indian stock exchange. This is called as reverse flipping. So because the tax benefits were good outside, they were trying to go out earlier. That is something like flipping. This is reverse flipping. Is that okay? So it is driven by various factors, including India's thriving economy, expansive market potential, robust venture capital ecosystem. Venture capital? You can raise money easily through venture capitals, favorable tax frameworks, strong intellectual property protection, educated workforce, supporting government policies. All positives they have written. Anything where government looks positive, you should learn. Anything where government is negative, they will not ask. Remember this. Suppose they have achieved something and it looks positive, means you have to read. Got the point, right? Okay. So reason companies opt for reverse flipping due to the ease of accessing capital from private equity and venture capital, regulatory changes regarding round tripping, and the increasing maturity of India's capital markets. India's capital markets are becoming more matured, easy access to finance, better tax and regulatory mechanisms like this. Okay, so measures to accelerate the process. So this was survey suggested measures to expedite the process, such as simplifying procedures for tax and ESOP and all that. Okay, so this is one. Flipping. Flipping is when an Indian company transforms into a 100% subsidiary of a foreign entity after it has moved its headquarters overseas. This is what is the meaning of flipping. So what was in news is about reverse flipping. Yeah, they are coming back to India. Okay, so here you see company transforms into 100% subsidiary of a foreign entity after it has moved its headquarters overseas. Is that okay? Including a transfer of its intellectual property and others. Impact on India, brain drain of entrepreneurship talent, all that is a result of flipping. It results in value creation in foreign jurisdictions rather than India. That is about flipping. Okay, so you will read reverse flipping. So there was this passing off under trademark rules. There was a fight between some companies related to momos. Auntie Momo. What Dolma auntie? Yes. Some auntie Momo. But it is something like the trademark, a distinctive sign or a symbol which distinguishes one brand from another. Okay, and trademarks are also covered under TRIPS, intellectual property right, TRIPS. Okay, so here trademark is a symbol. Regulation, Trademarks Act of 1999 regulates trademarks and their registration in India. It ensures protection for trademarks registered with Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, also known as Trademark Registry. Later on you can read. So validity, trademark remains valid for 10 years after registration and can be renewed by the owner regularly. Is that okay? So passing off involves using someone else's good or services without authorization, which can mislead customers. Okay, and passing off is when someone sells their products as if they belong to someone else. Protection against passing off. The concept of passing off under the Indian Trademarks Act aims to protect the reputation linked with the unregistered trademarks. Registered trademark, you use the word infringement. If it is not registered, then only comes this challenge called as passing off. Is that okay? So passing off was in news. This is a non-registered trademark. Dolma auntie. It was not registered, and that is the reason you are using the word passing off. You are not using the word infringement. If it would have been a registered one, you will use a word infringement. Is that okay? So earlier on GI there was a question. Go through that. Geographical indicator, GI, not what are the different types of GI. On GI registrations and all, there was a question that you will go through once. Okay, so then this was, I think, previous question. And self-help groups in news. Self-help group is in your material current affair also. Okay, but this I think before last year, they have asked this question. Okay, so in a self-help group, all members of a group take responsibility for a loan that an individual member takes. For a loan that an individual, is that okay? Yeah, that is a clue basically. So you have to know this to mark this answer. In a self-help group, all members of a group take responsibility for a loan than an individual member. So that's a responsibility, is a kind of a group responsibility. RRB's SCB support. The self-help group program was originally initiated by the State Bank of India. First one is right or wrong? Wrong. So what should be there? No. Bangladesh's microfinance Grameen Bank accepted. From SBI you're going to Bangladesh. He's saying SBI there. Okay, so he's saying SBI there. I think it should be NABARD. Okay, I think it should. Is that okay? Yes. Now this is, of course, this is from our material only. You have to read it very properly. Public debt, government debt, general debt, external debt, how much percent of GDP, everything. Okay, and you can see IMF is okay, so this is okay. Our debt to GDP was high, that they were complaining, India was not accepting, all that you know. So public debt denotes liabilities payable by the central government which are contracted against the Consolidated Fund of India. Is that okay? So as provided under Article 292. Okay, so central government's public debt stood at, I showed you one more data, I think chart 59 almost we have touched. Okay, so general government debt represents indebtedness of government sector, central government, state and UTs with legislature. So when I say general government debt, okay, internal debt constitutes 94% of the public debt by end March. More than 90, yes. Is that okay? So you will clearly observe here. So internal debt can be with respect to non-marketable instruments. I think the other day one boy was asking, non-marketable instruments, yes, non-marketable instruments like intermediate T-bills. These are not the regular T-bills. Regular T-bills are marketable. Individuals can also buy T-bills, but they don't participate much. There is a platform now where individuals also can buy. If you open the Zerodha, you will find you can buy T-bill bonds. You can buy. There is a coupon yield announced. If you want, you can buy. It's not that we can't buy. Okay, so is that okay? Yes. External debt, okay. This is again from our material only. Okay, so dated security. Dated securities are short term or long term? Long term. So obviously in the capital market. So generally, obviously the maturity period would be long term. Generally the tenor of dated security ranges from 5 years to 40 years. So it is long term, so capital market obviously. So G-Secs are tradable instruments issued by the central government or the state governments. So RBI can issue G-Secs on behalf of center as well as state, right? And dated securities, can they be issued by state? Nahin? T-bills can't be, right? These are long term, right? Okay, so the regular T-bills cannot be issued by the state. T-bills, you know, cash management bill, the other day we have talked about CMB. So cash management bill, maturity less than 91. Today you don't have 14-day T-bill. No 14-day T-bill. Okay, it is there here, right? State development loans are dated securities issued through normal auctions by the state similar to dated G-Secs. Is that okay? Yes. E-Kuber platform, RBI, E-Kuber platform, online platform. Okay, so foreign portfolio investors and corporates are allowed to participate in the G-Sec market. Okay, and what are the risks associated with dated security? Liquidity. So you are selling but nobody is buying. Okay, reinvestment risk where future proceeds like coupon payments or debt principal will need to be reinvested at a lower interest, etc. Market risk, movement of prices, etc. This is, I've written Vision IAS material only. So this is about the incremental cash reserve ratio. Which month I don't remember. Is that okay? So this is how it is different from the regular CRR, and you are keeping an additional ICRR at 10%. Is that okay? Yes, incremental cash reserve ratio. Now this was in news, RBI surplus transfer to the central government, there was a jump. In that context, it was in news. Now the question comes up, you'll check and tell me, does RBI pay income tax? No. RBI does not pay income tax. Does RBI make profits? Yes. Therefore it has a lot of money and that is transferred. Okay, earlier government was upset that it was not getting enough transfers. But now you find because of the revaluation of the assets, especially dollar-rupee conversions, RBI was able to get a lot of money. And because of which it was able to transfer more to the government. That jump was there. So now this is the graph which shows surplus transfer to the central government. Demonetization, etc. period, there was a trouble that the transfers have come down because RBI had to spend more money for minting 2000 rupee notes, etc. See, ICRR was also used basically during that recall of the 2000 rupee. Got the point right? Of course, it is not about removing 2000. I think you should have read it somewhere, right? So RBI transfer 87,000 crore as surplus, 188% jump to the union government. Okay, so with respect to that context, it is there. RBI is not required to pay income tax. It transfers surplus amount to the government in accordance with that. Is that okay? Yes. And RBI used to keep a major chunk of this surplus in consolidated fund, asset development fund, etc. Of course, I've talked about early in the classes, like assets and liabilities of RBI. Okay, so where will these contingency fund means to handle some risk. Okay, so RBI puts some money into this contingency fund to handle risk. So this contingency fund will be in asset side or liability side? Okay, I'll not you have to check what are the assets and liabilities of RBI. What are the assets and liabilities of RBI? Important area. Okay, so assets and liability of RBI. That is you are going to check the balance sheet of RBI. What does that mean? You are going to check the balance sheet of RBI. Like where will G-Secs go? Where does gold go? Okay, so where does discounted bills go? Discounted bills. Bills discounted by RBI. Bills is discounted by RBI, where will it go? Asset. Why? Because your discounting bill means you are giving loan. And loans given by RBI would be asset for RBI. Is that okay? So check that asset and liability. Okay, so this is from our vision document. LIBOR, London Interbank offer, heard of it? So now they are talking about SOFR, Secured Overnight Financing Rate. Okay, so LIBOR is a big scandal. Actually, we know it long back, but we did not replace it. So there is a method of setting LIBOR. There is a methodology, the way they set LIBOR. So all the good banks, strong banks which you believe they are strong, they will give the data based on which the interest rate would be calculated. Okay, so there were a lot of problems that manipulations were done, etc. And LIBOR was also responsible for subprime crisis related issues also. 2013 itself, they have understood the scandal, but LIBOR manipulation was there from 2003. So 2002, 2013, and now they said no more LIBOR. So you will read about LIBOR. It is there in the material. LIBOR, what is LIBOR? You will read. What is the purpose of LIBOR? Does LIBOR used to decide all the rates? Yes, they used to decide. For example, earlier LIBOR had an impact on credit card loans, education loans, home loans, all the loans. Are you able to get this? Directive rate. Okay, so there was something like MIBOR in India, Mumbai Interbank. Okay. Fine, see here, LIBOR and Mumbai Interbank forward outright rate will be phased out, gone already. So MIFO is a domestic interest rate benchmark presently published by the Financial Benchmark India Private Limited. No more LIBOR, removed it. Okay, so this is so it is a benchmark rate, is a global benchmark interest rate at which major global banks lend to one another in the international interbank market for short-term loans. So we have also talked about interbank credit, that is interbank loans, short-term in the money markets. In the money market, we have talked about, mentioned call money rates, call money, notice money, all that is short-term. That is all interbank borrowing. Is that okay? Yes. So here, before 2014, LIBOR was administered by the British Bankers Association. Later, the maintenance of the benchmark was brought under the purview of UK Financial Conduct Authority. Before 2021, LIBOR was calculated for 5 currencies. Okay, LIBOR was calculated for 5 currencies for 7 tenor periods. So almost like 35 rates. Okay, used to be there. Almost, I think. Yeah, is that okay? So then, after the announcement of phased rollback in March, only US dollar LIBOR was allowed to be published. Later on, it was only US dollar LIBOR. So LIBOR, you will read. Anyhow, you have to read this. Then social stock exchange. This is also from the material only. Nothing new. It is from our material. So SEBI approved certain flexibility in the framework for social stock exchange. So issuance of zero coupon, zero principal bonds. Okay, so SSC is a segment of existing stock exchange that can help social enterprises such as non-profit organizations or for-profit enterprises to raise funds from public through stock exchange mechanism. So you will go through this. Okay, so this is one more area which India's trade profile, India's top export commodities, India's export, India's top import source nations, India's top export destinations. Is that okay? Yes. You'll just check that once. Okay, at least top one or two you have to remember. Okay, so here you can see import China, UAE, US. Okay. I think we have come across, I think I mentioned it somewhere in the previous this thing also, export chapter. I mentioned it, but you will also slowly observe. You also check the trends once. Last 5 years, trade balance, how it is and all that. Okay, and then LRS is liberalized remittances scheme. Current affair. Okay, is it for only current account or both current and capital? Both current and capital account. So what happens in LRS? Don't get into technicality, but at least you will read what is LRS scheme. Is that okay? NABARD, I told you, social impact bond. NABARD entity that has issued first social impact bond, social bond. So it is an innovative financing mechanism in which governments enter into agreements with social service providers such as NGOs and investors to pay for the delivery of predefined social outcomes. Okay, so then NABARD, which 5-year plan? 6th, not 4, 6. 18. Okay, so 6th committee, Sivaraman committee. Okay, Sivaraman committee. And refinance is one of the major function. No direct loan to individuals. Direct loan to entities or institutions can be there, but not to individual. Ownership wholly owned by the government of India. And these are some of the functions of NABARD. So initiatives, promotion and development. Okay, so rural infrastructure development fund. You will also read urban infrastructure development fund, which is there in your material. Is that okay? So RIDF, see, RIDF is funded if banks are not able to reach the PSL targets. Okay, so whatever targets are not reaching, especially with respect to agriculture, that money has to be credited by the banks into this RIDF, and this RIDF would be maintained under NABARD. Okay, so now there is something like urban infrastructure development fund also, that also you should be reading. Done almost. You should only read. It's all your effort. Okay, so ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research. And read PLI and semiconductor. PLI, there it is there. Okay, so you should think like what can be asked rather than reading for mains. Okay, you're reading for mains. Oh, that is different. We can read later. Okay, so but PLI, what can be asked? Okay, so semiconductor, Central Electricity Authority. Okay, so market coupling in power exchanges. What is this word, market coupling in power exchanges? It is there in the, I have to pick this word also from the material only. Okay, so see, power sector challenges are a very important question in the mains. Power sector challenges, very important question in the mains, but now you just go through these. Okay, so this was also in news, transfer pricing. Supreme Court altered the approach to resolving transfer pricing disputes in India. So you should be knowing what is transfer pricing, what is the news, and then along with that, you should also know what is this arm's length transaction. That is also from news only. Okay, so it was there earlier, now again it is there. So at least you should know transfer pricing, base erosion profit shifting, arm's length transaction. Arm's length pricing you call it as. Okay, so that's it. Still? Urea gold. I've reduced actually a lot. Condense. I've not put, like, there are many things, but at least this much should be doable. It should not be difficult. So urea gold. So yesterday I've used this, talked about this. Okay, so you have to read. So, and then Vostro accounts also. Vostro. There is Nostro and Vostro. Banking. So you'll read about Vostro. It was in news recently. Is that okay? That's all. That's all. I think I'll stop here. Okay, thank you.